Losing a pet is like losing a piece of your heart. If you're struggling with grief, you're not alone. At My Dog Died, we understand the pain and are here to support you. Visit us today and find comfort, guidance, and a community that cares. We received a letter from someone who's lost their pet and have allowed us to share their story so that it will help other listeners deal with the loss of their pet. Remember, if you like this video, please support us with a like, subscribe, and share. Hello, friends. I've read hundreds of letters over the years, but sometimes a story comes through that carries the smell of salt water and the sound of wind on the waves. Jason's letter about his dog, Shadow, is one of those. Dear Don, he began, I never thought I'd be writing to you or anyone else about Shadow, but I've read so many stories on My Dog Died, and each one made me both sad and grateful. Sad for the loss, grateful for the love those dogs brought into their people's lives. Now it's my turn. For some background, Jason is a 49-year-old fisherman from Anchorage, Alaska. His life has always been bound to the sea, and 9 years ago, the sea gave him a gift. Or maybe it came from a neighbor's backyard for just $10. Shadow was a young golden retriever then, with paws too big for his body and a curious nose that seemed to be in constant motion. I handed my neighbor that crumpled $10 bill, Jason wrote, and walked away with the best first mate a man could ever hope for. From that day on, Shadow was more than a pet. He was crew. Jason wrote about how Shadow would trot down the dock ahead of him, tail high, as if he owned the marina. Out on the boat, he'd bark what Jason swore were orders whenever they approached a trap line. If I was moving too slow, he'd bark twice. If I went the wrong way, it was 3 sharp barks. I got used to being bossed around by a golden-furred captain, Jason said. But Shadow's real gift was his nose. That dog could smell crab like no one's business, Jason wrote. He'd stand on the bow, nose to the wind, and then swing his head toward a spot in the bay. Without fail, that's where we'd find the best haul. They had years of this, long days on the water, shared lunches of smoked salmon, and the quiet satisfaction that comes from knowing your best friend is right there beside you, watching the horizon. Then came the storm. Jason wrote about how quickly it moved in, black clouds swallowing the sky, the wind tearing at the water. It was the kind of weather that makes the ocean feel alive and angry, he said. They were heading back in when a sudden swell rocked the boat. I don't know if he lost his footing or if a wave caught him just wrong, Jason wrote, but Shadow went over the side. Jason turned the boat around in seconds, fighting both the waves and his own panic, but the water was too rough. He saw him once, just a flash of gold against the gray water, and then he was gone. There was a long pause in Jason's letter here, a gap of white space that said more than any words could. I came home to an empty boat and an emptier heart, he finally wrote. I couldn't even bring myself to go down to the dock for weeks. But one night, unable to sleep, I found your site. I started reading. One story after another, I realized I wasn't alone in this kind of grief. You and your community helped me feel less like I'd failed him, and more like I'd been lucky to have had him at all. As I read Jason's words, I could almost see Shadow, wet paws on the deck, eyes bright, nose twitching toward the next adventure. And I could feel Jason's loss, like a heavy anchor. Dogs like Shadow don't just fill a place in your life, they shape it. They become part of the rhythm, the reason you keep going, the heartbeat you match your days to. When they're gone, the world doesn't just feel quieter. It feels off-kilter, like the compass has spun and you've lost your true north. Jason ended his letter with this. I like to think that somewhere out there, Shadow's still on a boat, maybe with calm seas this time, barking at some poor fisherman to turn left, not right, because that's where the crabs are. And when my time comes, I hope I'll hear that bark again and follow it home. I folded the letter and sat for a while, staring at the waves outside my own window. I thought about how love, in all its forms, leaves a mark that storms can't wash away. Shadow may have been lost to the sea, but he'll always be the captain of Jason's heart. Until next time, take care of yourselves and your fur babies.
Your love for your pet never fades, and neither should your support. If you're grieving, don't go through it alone. Visit MyDogDied.com or call us at 85-5925-2658 and connect with those who truly understand. Healing starts here. Remember, if you like this video, please support us with a like, subscribe, and share. If you have a story that you would like to tell us, your dog stories at MyDogDied.com, at gmail.com.